Hi guys, in this video we'll talk about how you can design your own PBR material. Now, because you are already using Bar Toolkit, the shader is already set up for you. So all you need to do is when you design the labels in Photoshop and you export them, all you need to do is bring them back into Blender. We will jump into Photoshop just in a minute, but first of all, if you're a beginner, let me help you find the right material. So all you need to do is come up to the table and select the object you want to make your new texture for. Let's say this energy drink. So you click on it and now let's access the node editor. So I'm gonna make a new window by dragging this corner, and now let's come up here and click on node editor. Now we just entered the material and it consists of the coordinates for the maps themselves, and the shader that makes the whole material up. Now if you already made your new design, all you have to do is replace those three maps. So the first one is the color map, the second one is a gloss, and the third one is the normal map. And just another small note, make sure you're in the right shader because there are actually 4 materials applied to this one object. So if you go to the right and click on the material tab, you can see there's few different materials applied here. And if you look for the one that has 3 maps in it, then you should be fine. So yeah, I hope that helps. Okay, so let me demonstrate the power of a PBR shader, and then we'll jump into Photoshop to build your own custom labels. So in the description I will put a bunch of links from people that explain PBR more scientifically and more clear, and I will just briefly tell you the practical thing of what PBR is if you never heard of it. Basically, when you put PBR material in your scene, in your 3D scene, it will behave correctly depending on the lighting. So let me show you. I have a simple scene here in Blender 2.8, which is a test build. This is just for demonstration purposes, so just bear with me. I have a light selected, and let me just make a room here so you can see it better. If you look at the marble material here at the table, you can see the specular highlight, and when the light reaches the dark portion of the texture, you see it reacts differently. So it basically reacts as a real material would, and that's the power really of the PBR shaders and the PBR maps that you use to create those materials. And let's just give you example with HDR. There you go. You see the whole look of the material changes depending on how light hits it. So by now this method is a standard in an industry and creates great results. That's why it's used really. As it is today, I will show you the easiest way to get the shader working that everyone can access in their current version of Blender. So if you're running Blender 2.78 or maybe even older, you will probably use a shader made by Andrew Price. So he basically built PBR dielectric shader and PBR metal shader. So dielectric is something like cloth, plastic, wood and so on, and metal is obviously a metal. So for this label I'm using dielectric, and as you can see as I zoom out to this shader, you have color map, gloss map and normal map connected. So they're connected, and in between you have few nodes such as just few tweaks of brightness and contrast to the colors. And I also inverted the gloss map a bit to give me more realistic reflections. And obviously you have a normal map node which basically adds the bumps and creases to the whole label. And the fundamental thing is to basically tell those textures where they need to be applied. So you need to UV unwrap your objects, and Bar Toolkit has all the models unwrapped. So all you need to do is drop in texture coordinate node and a mapping node, and those basically tell your textures where to go. In Blender 2.79, those node trees and all the shenanigans you always had to do to get a nice PBR looking shader have been already resolved, and you have a nice looking shader that basically takes care of all of your needs. So you might as well get Blender 2.79 to get this nice shader called Principled BSDF. Okay, so let's have a look how we can build those maps to use in Blender. So first, you make the color map. So after you're done with making your label, you have all the dimensions right, you basically go and export this layout as it is. So File, Export, and you export this first map. Now, after you've done that, you have to export the gloss map or the roughness map. They're basically identical, but one is the invert of another. Some programs use roughness, some glossiness. I usually export gloss map, and in Blender I use invert node to make it look right. Now in the label templates, you should be able to see a gloss map setting. So it basically turns the picture black and white. So you have a hue which desaturates the whole map, and then curves to just add a bit of contrast. And when you have this black and white picture, you have your gloss map. So you can go ahead and export that as well. Now, last but not least, to make basic PBR shader, you will need a normal map. Now what I like to do is duplicate my whole label. So let's just drag it into the new to create a copy, and I go into convert into smart object. It might take a while to apply all the changes, and I just put it above everything. Oops. And I just put it above everything. Boom. And we just go into filter, 3D, generate normal map. So again, the whole plugin might take a while to load up. Let's just give it a moment, and we have a nice preview. Now the settings are usually up to your taste, so you might leave it very detailed like this, but in Blender you will put it to very minimal effects, so it's not too harsh. It's very subtle. So you can just, actually those are my settings. So what I did is just put it to low in here, put it to 0, like both are 0, 0, and then 100, so that gives you the maximal detail. You can tweak and use the blur effect. It will just blur out the thing, but it's really up to you, to be honest. So try out and experiment with different settings, and when you're done, click OK, and your normal map is ready. You just need to export it and load all the 3 maps in Blender. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you find it useful. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. I do daily renders, and yeah, I'm on Artstation. All the links down below. Make sure you subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.